You are listening to Unscripted Moments, a podcast about propaganda. On this episode, I welcome my friend Jeff Bagneschi to the podcast to discuss our travels around southern Ontario in May of 2022 to see 3 propaganda shows in Toronto, London, and Guelph, Ontario. We meant to do this episode right away after the trip, but we both got sick at the end of the trip, and then I bought a house and had to move, and things just got away from us. Jeff tattoos at North Star Buffalo, which we get to later in the episode, but it took us a while to get there. So if you are ever in Buffalo, New York, and you want to get tattooed by a propaganda fan, hit up Jeff. He is on Instagram, and his username is JPBags13. So listen to Jeff and I try to recap something that happened over a year ago. It's a wild ride. Enjoy. Jeff Bagneschi.
Hi.
Welcome to Unscripted Moments, a podcast about propaganda. It's a delight to have you here in my house.
Thank you for having me.
I'm delighted we're doing this, Jeff. So a little context for anybody out there listening is that Jeff and I are pals here in Buffalo, and a year ago, basically to the day, we were in Ontario watching Propaganda's Southern Ontario tour that they did. They also went out to East Coast Canada as well, but for the sake of this conversation, which is I'm going to title Bangers Embrace Part 4, basically, is that we saw one of the Toronto shows at Lee's Palace. We saw the London, Ontario show at the London Music Hall, and we saw the Guelph show, which took place at a venue called, oh my goodness, it's not listed here on the old setlist.fm. Do you have that written down? Where do we see London them in Guelph? Was it the Guelph Concert Hall or something like that?
I don't even think I wrote it down.
Very fascinating. I'm just going to Google it really quick. We are off to a wonderful start. Guelph, Ontario, Propaganda 2022. They played at... Goodness gracious, it's not on their website. Eastern Canada shows. Oh gosh, I'm on the forbiddenpunknews.org now. I wonder if this will work. Anyway, we saw them in Guelph, and we had a magnificent trip, and it's completely embarrassing. Guelph Concert Theater. That's right. Both shows that we saw in London and Guelph were supported by the bands Maldita and Mall Crimes.
Mall Crimes is so good.
Mall Crimes is so good. They have continued to be awesome as well. And the show that we saw at Lee's Palace, the band Fruits opened up.
Oh, yeah.
And also, I believe another band called Make War opened up. So, Jeff, the reason why we didn't do this a year ago is because we both caught COVID at either the London show or the Guelph show. There's really no way of knowing.
Right, probably right before the Guelph show.
And I plunged into a weeks-long depression that it took me a long time to spring back from that one. So how was your experience getting COVID at those propaganda shows? Because mine was horrific and terrible.
I was so uncomfortable because it flares up my sciatica, so I can't even lay comfortably in COVID hell.
Oh my God.
But then I went on a trip immediately after I was able to, but I may be dealing with some longer COVID effects a year later. So that's super fun.
Yeah, what's going on now? Because I still have this cough that just lingers. It'll go away for a week, and then it'll come back for 8 weeks, and then it'll go away and come back. But it's ever since I started getting COVID, this is my second time. I've had it twice now, but ever since I started getting it, I've just been coughing like a maniac for the last year or so.
The first time I got it, if I breathe in, is like inhale like a regular breath as far as I can, I end up coughing a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But the second time, I've just been getting like some crazy fog almost every day. I can't think of words sometimes right when I need to, so that's super frustrating, like working every day.
Yeah.
So that's fun. Yeah.
Well, so we meant to do this, and we like scheduled it 4 or 5 times to hang out, And then it was always just like, I can't do it. I just can't do it. Like I was seriously just barely functioning for several weeks. And then before you know it, months had passed. And I was like, oh, there's no point in doing it now because we've forgotten all the necessary details, which is completely ridiculous. It was just like a spiral of like when you put something off for so long, the thought of like attempting to do it is almost like so embarrassing because it's just like being like, okay, fine, we have to do this now. But anyway, but yeah, and then in a week from today, I'm so glad we're hanging out again because in a week we're going to Lee's Palace again in Toronto to see Cigar. It's a Mad Caddies show, and Belvedere is playing direct support, but I'm not completely going for Cigar. I'm going for Cigar mostly.
Cigar is the star. I would pay the full ticket price just to go see them.
Yeah, exactly. So we're probably going to watch a band that we've both been waiting to see for 24 years since Speed is Relative came out in Theologian Records in 1998, and I got that free compilation at Warped Tour that year, and I was like, Mr. Hurtado, you are the greatest song of all time. So I'm delighted that we get to go and see Cigar finally, and we're reconnecting to hang out for a little bit before we go to the show. So it's wonderful, don't you think?
I do.
Okay, so we're going to sort of recap this trip to the best of our abilities. Tell me like what you remember about like the planning stages of going to these Southern Ontario shows to go see Propaganda.
I feel like the planning was basically make sure I can actually get over the border.
Mm-hmm.
So I went over a week before to see if I could get over.
Yeah.
And basically leaving the rest of the planning up to you.
Yeah. It was a really, like, we brainstormed multiple ideas. Like, you were going to, like, walk across at, like, the Rainbow Bridge or something in Niagara Falls, and then I was just going to, like, pick you up on the other side. Mm-hmm. It was a real haphazard situation, but we're also talking about a time when we couldn't just use a passport. Like, did we have to get negative test results to go over, or had that lapsed?
That might have ended, like, a week before, something really soon before we left.
Yeah, we were still doing the ArriveCan app though.
Yeah,
at that time. So,
that's true.
I mean, for anybody who knows, like we live like right on the border. Like I see Canada on my bike rides all the time. And for what was it, like a year and a half, like going over was flat out impossible. And then when they did start making it allowable, you had to jump through so many hoops. Like you had to have PCR tests that were like within like a certain hours of like
a day or two, maybe?
Yeah, of crossing. But that was a time when like you would go get tested at like Rite Aid and Walgreens and stuff, and it would take forever to get the test results back, so that by the time you got your results back, oftentimes your time that you wanted to travel was past. And so we're paying like these like exorbitant rates to get PCR tests at guaranteed 24-hour private drive-through clinics, but it was like $160. I remember when I went to Winnipeg in October 2021 to see Propaganda, it was like $160 just for the PCR test. Mm-hmm. So we had quite an adventure for ourselves. We drove up on, so the first show that we saw was on May 25th, 2022. And Propaganda was in Toronto the night before, but since I have my kiddo on Tuesday nights, we only went to the second Toronto show. And I heard that the first one was absolutely wonderful. But what are some major details that you remember about our trip up there?
I guess the first one was meeting Conrad Sichler for lunch.
Mm-hmm.
That was fantastic.
Yeah, didn't he walk up to just like, hey, what's up, punks?
Yeah,
and we were like, oh, there he is right there.
Yeah.
It was like an immediate.
Creepers on.
Yeah. Oh, my gosh. And so that was super funny. We walked around. We were trying to find somewhere. Were we in Burlington?
Yes.
That's where we were at lunch?
Mm-hmm. We went to Love Cafe.
Okay. I wonder if that's still there.
It seemed like it should be.
It was pretty delicious. I mean, we were right off the water. Didn't we walk down to like the pier?
Mailed some records.
We did mail records. Is that where we went to the post office in Burlington? We mailed a copy of I'd Rather Be Flag Burning, the Propaganda I Spy 10-inch,
right,
to Sam Thompson, who hosts Witch Police Radio in Winnipeg. And I had a few copies of it, and I was like, this is something that Sam should have. And Sam had done a bunch of favors for me for the podcast, so I was like, I'm going to give him this as like a gift and, a thank you for these unbelievable amounts of work and research and help that he's done with the podcast over the years. So I remember mailing that now off the top. Now that you mention it.
Yeah, we showed up quite early.
Yeah.
To get over that bridge.
Oh my gosh, I know. And Conrad was super fun. We did some pictures with him, and he signed a CD for us. And I think that he took us. Didn't we go to?
I Heart Gelato.
Yes, the gelato place, and it was actually a really beautiful day out.
Yeah, it was.
It was wonderful. It was good. Did anything else happen on that day that you recall? Anything interesting on the way up?
Not on the way up. Nothing that I at least wrote down.
Did we do... Okay, so then we leave Conrad. He says that he might be coming to the show in Guelph a few days later.
Right.
No definite plans. But it was awesome to meet Conrad. If anybody doesn't know Conrad Sichler, please go listen to the Leg Hole Trap episode for a conversation with him, because he wrote his band, Toothpick Hercules. He was in that band with John K. Sampson in like high school.
Didn't he record the early demos too?
Yeah, they have a full Toothpick Hercules record that is essentially unreleased. I think that they should just, put it on Spotify and Apple and just be like, hey, it's out. Here you go.
I agree.
Just why sit on it? Why sit on it? It's got the original Leg Hole Trap, and honestly, Leg Hole Trap is probably my least or second least favorite song on that EP. So the fact that Propaganda chose in my view, one of the lesser good songs, like that record is full of great stuff. And Toothpick Hercules' version is way better than Propaganda's version. Propaganda's version is by far inferior to the original.
I don't think I've heard any of their actual recorded stuff.
I'll have to share it with you sometime. I have it on files somewhere. Okay, so we go to Toronto. We have an interesting time parking because I had to buy a parking pass off the internet for the city of Toronto that I remember.
Right.
And we parked down the street. We got an Airbnb, didn't we?
Yes. 335 Palmerston.
Dude, when we pulled up and that was the address, I was like, Propaganda's everywhere. Whenever you immerse yourself into a project like this so much, you start to see connections to everything related to the band. It just hits you,
Yeah.
And so to be on Palmerston for a Propaganda Bangers Embrace pilgrimage was fairly appropriate, and to be in the city where Propaganda members Todd and Chris did their Bangers Embrace to go see Sacrifice.
Right.
Dude, we were we were a couple miles from the Opera House where Chris and Todd saw Sacrifice. They based the song on.
That makes sense that's where that was.
Yeah.
I've been there a few times, yeah.
So the Airbnb was funny because the lady who owns it met us and was very, showing us around, but we were in a room smaller than this room that we're currently sitting in the back of my house. And so, but she was very showing us stuff and telling us stuff and very, very chatty. Do you remember that?
Yes. She would bring coffee in the morning through the door connected to her house.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very sweet lady, though.
Very sweet. And it was affordable, and it was super close to Lee's Palace. So we're up there on the 25th, and so we get checked into the Airbnb. We meet the host, and then we must have done stuff that day. Was that the day that we met Josh from the Last Believer podcast about Good Riddance, and Billy from Silverstein for lunch at Sneaky D's?
Yep.
Okay.
That was great.
What do you remember about that?
I've never been there, but knew about it from Scott Pilgrim.
Oh.
So
they filmed some Scott Pilgrim in Sneaky D's?
It was in the graphic novel. I can't remember if it was in the movie or not.
No stinking way.
Yeah. So that was really cool to be there and then to meet somebody else from a podcast that I listened to.
Yeah.
So that was really neat. I didn't know that I thought it was just a dive bar. I didn't know they actually have food.
And they have shows. I think there was a stage upstairs. Didn't they mention that they have music there sometimes too?
Mm-hmm.
The artwork on the outside of Sneaky D's, isn't it covered in murals? I can't quite remember.
Yeah, I think there's just some good graffiti out there.
Yeah.
I think Giant used to be up there, but I can't remember if it was still there or not.
Nice. I stuck a Unscripted Moments sticker on the dryer in the basement of Sneaky D's, and I believe it's still there because someone only a few months ago sent me a picture of it from Toronto and said, "Hey, I saw your sticker in Toronto." And so it might still be there.
That whole downstairs is absolutely covered in stickers and tags. It's pretty great.
It's pretty awesome. So we met Josh. We hung out for a long time. He got in touch with Billy. Billy had just been on the podcast as well, so it was wonderful to meet him. And he brought over a couple of records for me. He brought a Silverstein 7-inch that has a cover of Fuck the Border on it, and he brought me a short songs 10-inch by Silverstein, where Chris did a backing vocal on one of the songs.
Oh.
So Billy gave me presents.
I remember it. I forgot he gave you some records.
It was so cool, and I listened to them, and they're wonderful, and I love having them. Records like that, sometimes you have tons and tons of records. It's easier to part with certain records than others. I haven't listened to this record in 8 years. I'm gonna let it go to a new home. But those are the kinds of records when they have a personal connection with a specific moment, not just being at a record store and being oh, I guess I'll buy this because I feel guilty walking out of here with nothing when I'm the only person in the store.
Right.
I hate being in record stores like that when I'm the only one in there.
Yeah. Especially if it's small.
Yeah. And the owner's sitting right there,
Yep.
and it's you and him, and there's no, it's well, if I leave here, I'm very much choosing to not spend money in this person's store. It's bad. I hate that feeling. So we go. So did anything happen after the dinner at Sneaky D's?
We walked around, and then you ended up eating sushi just so we could go in somewhere and take a pee.
Nice. Go me.
Yeah.
That rocks. Did you write down the name of it?
I did not.
Okay, but you do remember sushi?
Yes.
Was it a sushi roll, like a burrito?
No, you had. I think you just got some vegan sushi
Oh, sweet.
at a tiny little place.
Okay, sweet. And it probably had one of those downstairs bathrooms in Toronto where there's notoriously steep stairs down into the pit, essentially.
We were waiting for the doors to open, I think, because it was on the same street.
Yes, I remember that. Is that where we met Steven?
We met Steven outside the venue.
Yeah, but that wasn't when we were having sushi?
No.
Okay. Okay, so then we go to the show, right? After sushi?
Yes.
Okay.
And it says Mr. Popular Show because people were excited to see you.
Yeah, that was super fun. Okay, so I wrote down some names of folks that we wound up meeting. So that's where we met Steven Yarushi, who was on our Night Letters and Note to Self Part 2 episode and made fantastic, unbelievable covers of those two songs. So Steven's episode of the podcast is awesome, but we had been chatting on Instagram for ages and ages at that point, so it was awesome to meet him. I think he was wearing a Venom shirt, if I remember correctly.
I can't remember.
When we met him. We met him outside that, the convenience store next to Lee's Palace.
Right,
I was inside.
out of the rain, sort of.
Yeah,
almost.
We were getting a coffee, and I think that we were trying to kill time in there, being out of the rain, getting coffee. And I saw Steven outside. I was like, "Oh, that's totally the guy right here that we're looking for." But there was a bunch of other people at that show. I know that we met. I met Jen Fiorentino briefly. I met Mitch Pollock from the CBC. I know that I met a guy named Nigel there as well, but and Lawrence
from England.
Yeah, Lawrence from England.
He was a trip. He was great.
Yeah, and then there was the guy. Oh man, the guy who came all the way from New York City. Was his name? I think it was Peter.
With another dude.
Yeah, he came, but I believe that I met. I think it was Peter Curis who came from New York City. So I think I loved chatting with those guys. It's so fun to do such a weird project like this because my life is so normal, right? I wake up every day and go to my jobs and clean my house and hang out with my cats and take my kid to school and ballet. And then I just have this hobby where I do this, and then you go somewhere and there's usually someone that I can meet at shows. And I've met people in other cities who I just was in Atlantic City last week and then a music festival, and someone who listens to the podcast, two people who actually listen to the podcast were there. I met a listener, a friend from Pittsburgh named Stacy. And I also randomly on the beach in Atlantic City ran into Francesca Colombo, who was the guest on the Victory Lap episode and hosts the Menzingers podcast. she was like 100 feet away from me, and I was like, there's Cheska right there. I can't believe this. So it's like doing this weird project is funny because when you go somewhere, you can usually find someone to connect with or at least get some suggestions for the area, which is really cool.
Yeah, that was pretty fun.
So you wrote down Mr. Popular, so that's pretty funny. What else do you have written down there?
They played Tartuffe for the first time.
Yep, I actually recorded it, the whole thing, and
right.
it's on the podcast YouTube channel.
Okay, yeah, I do remember you filming that.
The whole thing, I got the whole entire song.
They opened with Coach's Corner.
Yep.
And I cried half the show.
Did you?
Yeah.
Why were you crying? Just beautiful?
I've just listened to them for so long, and a lot of times going to like punk shows where it's a band that's meant something for so long, I'm just an emotional little guy.
Was that your first time seeing them?
It was my fourth.
Fourth time.
Yeah, I saw them twice in Toronto and once in Buffalo.
Sweet. So you saw the Town Ballroom show on the Failed States tour like 10 years ago?
Criminally
underattended?
Yeah.
Yeah. I heard it was not super amazing because it was just such a lackluster turnout. Because Town Ballroom goes hard at shows when there's people there.
Oh, yeah.
But when it's underattended, wow.
I think I might have even been at the barrier, which I'm never that close because I'm not trying to get squeezed.
Yeah. Yeah.
But them playing with Comeback Kid was quite interesting,
mm-hmm.
and I love both bands, so that was fun for me. But yeah,
Comeback Kid was there
since.
too, and it was underattended that badly.
Yeah,
Buffalo, you are just, that's so disappointing to hear. Was Coach's Corner and Tartuffe like the major notes that you had for like song observations?
I think so. I'm not great with song names,
mm-hmm.
but I think that's what I wrote for that show.
Okay, sweet. I've got the whole entire set list here, so I'm just going to ramble through this thing really quick. And if any memories jump back out at you from any of these that I say, just fire away. And if not, that's fine too. So we got Coach's Corner, Failed Imagineer, Natural Disasters, Nation States, Potemkin City Limits. That was awesome. Mataka Marisa Kun Rasakan, Without Love, Tartuffe, live debut, Anti-Manifesto, Devil's Creek, I Am a Rifle, the Rebel Spell cover.
Right.
Cop Just Out of Frame, Comply Resist, When All Your Fears Collide, Duplicate Keys, Victory Lap, and Night Letters was the closer.
I remember being surprised that they did Anti-Manifesto. And
my cats.
What's the song with the about the cat dying?
Oh, Without Love.
I feel like they play that every night, and because I'm not much of a lyrics person, being able to watch his mouth and listen to him sing at the same time, I caught more words.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the days I actually was asking you like what he was singing about.
Oh,
and
yeah.
That song just like tore me to pieces every day.
Yeah, and that's actually a song that we've never really done a full proper episode on since the podcast began. I've done a couple of episodes and conversations about it that are shorter, but never one of like the ultra crazy deep dives that we've done. Just hasn't got around to it yet. It'll happen someday, but yeah, it's a hard one. And I've got a little cat. I've got 2 little cats in the house and a daughter. And I've watched my grandparents kind of waste away in their old age. So like that song hits me on like a triple whammy of intensity.
Yeah. And I can never remember which record Cop Just Out of Frame's on.
Yeah, Victory Lap.
Yeah, so that was one of the only records that would work on my iPod Touch.
Awesome.
So throughout COVID, that was one of the only records I listened to. And for some reason, Cop Just Out of Frame, there's a part in it that just would wreck me while I'd be driving around. And so when they played that, it was just like very powerful.
Yeah. For me, it's the Quang Duck's heart survived the flames unscarred.
That's the fucking part. Oh my God.
You can't beat that part. It's absolute perfection. And I go back and forth on that song being my favorite song off Victory Lap regularly.
Yeah.
It's such an effective song, and it's got these intense, like riffy, proggy parts that kind of tie the song together. But then it also has the extremely delightful melodicism of like Less Talk More Rock era propaganda. So it's got like a perfect mashup for me of the metal era and the skate punk sort of era. To me, that's like one of their songs that amalgamates all their eras like perfectly. Like you can't change it.
That's a great observation.
Oh, thank you. I mean, I've been obsessively making this podcast for over 3 years now, so I hope that once in a while I have an observation that makes a little bit of sense because this has been such an immersive experience. Okay, so we see the show. It was amazing. Met a bunch of people. Super fun. I didn't buy any merch or anything like that. Did you buy anything at the show?
No, you handed out pins.
I did. I had
and
pins
stickers.
that you made.
I did.
Pins that you made. Tell me about making the pins for the show.
I have been wanting to be able to make pins as a young punk since I was 15.
Yeah.
So, 21 years later, I could finally afford the press to make one.
The button maker.
Yeah. So, I just wanted to make something for the show as a thank you for doing all the work, so I don't have to.
Yeah. Yeah. Sweet. I mean, those buttons are amazing. I think you've taken a couple of designs that Jamie in Winnipeg made. One was like the brown logo that we did, like the Complete Band Interviews Volume 1 episode cover art.
Right.
And then the very bubblegum,
Like,
pink
and
and
yellow.
green. Yeah,
Yeah.
I love that logo. I use that as like the banner. Jeff, before we go on to the next show, I have realized that we never really introduced you at the beginning of this.
Oh.
We just launched into this freaking crazy adventure because every second that we don't record this conversation is like lost memories.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's already been a year.
Well, but what's really interesting is when you and I went to these shows, you were the proprietor of a tattoo studio that no longer exists.
Right.
Called Cobra Clutch Tattoo.
Yes.
In Niagara Falls, New York.
Yes.
Not Ontario. And you have since done a new gig. Tell everybody a little bit out there about like your work.
So, I'd been tattooing in the Falls for 12 years. We took the shop over from the guy who kind of taught us once he moved. And as things evolve, we just everybody went their separate ways. And my best friend ended up opening a shop very close to like a main drag in Buffalo, really close to our house. So I just moved in there with him. And it's like it feels more like the vision that we've always kind of wanted to work in. So that's pretty great. I don't have to drive 25 miles to Niagara Falls every day.
Yeah.
Even though I love the falls, but it's been a new, interesting experience.
Yeah, it's cut down your commuting a lot.
Oh yeah, save up on gas pretty good.
Yeah, and has like whenever you don't commute to a job that's far away anymore, isn't it unreal how much your life and your free time like opens up?
I don't have as much time listening to podcasts because I'm not in the car.
Mm-hmm.
But like I skated to and from work yesterday, so that was fun. I didn't get hit by a car, so that was a win.
Yeah. So if anybody out there listening wants to follow you on Instagram and maybe get tattooed if they're ever around the Buffalo, Niagara Falls area, how would they get in touch with you?
On Instagram, I'm at jpbags13.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think the shop is just North Star Buffalo.
I think so too.
Yeah.
I think that's right. But if anybody has trouble finding these things, you can always just DM me on Twitter or Instagram or at propagandipod@gmail.com, and I'll get you the proper info for Jeff if you want to get tattooed in Buffalo by a Propaganda fan who is my pal. So, yeah, that'll be fun, right?
I
Okay.
don't think I've ever done a Propaganda tattoo.
Well, I think about it once in a while. I do think about it. So if anybody out there beats me to getting tattooed about Propaganda by Jeff, the first time is still available because I've flaked on it. How many times?
At least a couple.
Yeah, a couple. What's so funny is I thought about getting the mop guy, and then I found out where the mop guy comes from, and I'll show it to you. It's in this book from 1961 called How to Clean Everything by Alma Chestnut Moore, and there's a little logo of the mop guy that just the band just lifted verbatim out of like the title page of this book from like 70 years ago or 60 years ago. It's hilarious stuff. Okay, so did we do anything after the first Toronto show that night?
I don't think so, because we had walked all friggin' day.
Yeah.
My notes go to the next day.
Let's go to the day after. Let's go to Thursday, May 26th, 2022, because there was no propaganda that day, but we had adventures.
We did.
So tell me a little bit of story about what we did on Thursday, the day off in between the 2 shows, or the 3 shows that we went to.
I think the first thing we did was go to the Kensington Market. Maybe?
Okay.
Yeah.
That resonates, yeah.
Walked around University,
Uh-huh.
I think.
Like by the University of Toronto?
Yeah, Kensington Market was like just kind of tooling around. We got quite a bit of food.
Mm-hmm.
Otto's Berlin Donner.
Okay. Oh, yeah, there was like it was like a currywurst
Yeah.
place, I think, right?
Yeah.
It's like the German.
Towards the one end.
Yeah, okay. I remember that now.
We were in a vegan coffee house.
Mm-hmm. Is that where we like took a break and
Yeah.
sat around for a while?
Charged up your phone.
Yeah, we charged it up. Man, I had a phone last year that would not keep a charge at all. And so when you're in another country or in a big city and you're like using your phone for navigation, like my battery would just plummet. So we were always looking for places to charge up.
Yeah. Stopped in a vegan bakery for
Mhm.
you.
Where did we
And-
go? Do you remember what it was called?
No, I must not written the name down. But then we shared a Belgian waffle.
Oh, yes. Yes, that waffle shop is actually still there too. I saw it a couple weeks ago.
I went back in I think January.
Nice.
And we went to Seven Lives Taco.
Sweet. Did we eat at Seven Lives Taco also?
Yeah.
Okay. Is that the place where we like stood up and we like each had like a couple small tacos? It was like
Mhm.
a street taco kind of place.
Maybe you ate cactus.
I think I did. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's exactly what I got.
And I don't know what this says. SDs?
SDs. Was that Sneaky D's?
Did we go back there?
Did we go
I
back to
don't
Sneaky
think we
D's?
did.
Anyway, that's the only thing I can think of though. SDs.
Huh. We went to Sonic Boom where you put a bunch of stickers in some vinyl.
I recently did that again too. When I went to oh my gosh. Was it must have been the Blink-182 Turnstile show at Scotiabank that I went to a couple weeks ago.
Oh yeah.
I went to Sonic Boom, I believe, and stuck a couple buttons in that record and a couple stickers as well. There was how to clean everything, and that was it at Sonic Boom. And I was like walking around like, oh my gosh, there's no propaganda for me to leave stickers. But I think I stuck a bunch of stickers and like other stuff too, like maybe some Slayer records and an Iron Maiden record and like Vandals and Pennywise and stuff like that. I think I stuck some stickers into several different records, not just the band.
Yeah, you were doing work.
I was, man. It's like guerrilla marketing, I think is the term for that. So that was fun. Anything else on Toronto on Thursday? I know we went, oh man,
Just a lot of food.
a lot of food, but we also went to the graffiti alley.
Queen Street. Yeah.
Tell me about what you remember about that, because that was totally your idea.
Yeah, it's something I think the first time I went through there, I was probably 15 or 16. The proprietor of a graffiti shop showed me that some guys from Tribal Clothing, I think from France, were doing a production that it's still there on like the side of a bank or something.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, it looked like a treasure map.
I think
Stuff
so,
was
yeah.
Popping off of it, and they used to do like a citywide event where people would paint that alley. It looks like it's still evolving, but I'm not sure what the legality is anymore. But it's cool to go through there and always see something different, and then I kind of nerded out explaining some stuff to you.
You did. That spot has always been like that? It's been that graffiti spot just in that same spot the entire time?
From, at least 20 years ago from what I can remember. But
Awesome.
I think on Google Maps, it's even the Queen Street Graffiti Alley.
Yeah, that's the only reason we found it, because I know that it was like running parallel to a major street, super close to Sonic Boom from what I remember as well.
Yeah.
And we just kind of like lucked out finding it, because I think we kind of had a couple of false starts getting to and from it a couple times. But whatever, that's fine. But that was super cool.
Yeah, I've always loved walking down there.
Every time I've seen graffiti ever since then too, I stop and like pay a little more close attention instead of like just walking through a graffiti space, like after having that experience of like having you be an appreciator of it and actually explaining what was going on a little bit to me. I was like, man, there's a lot of stories behind all these these paintings. It's not just haphazard. I'm sure there's like some that are like improvised and stuff like that, but I'm sure that some of it is really thoughtful and with tons of backstory behind it.
Yeah, I like to use them as landmarks walking through a place that I don't know.
Yeah. Awesome. So, do you have any other notes for our Toronto day out?
Hogtown?
Hogtown. Yeah, we went to there's a vegan restaurant in Toronto called Hogtown.
We went to a record store.
In a basement, right?
Yes.
It was like that one guy, he was like playing piano, writing music
Yeah.
in the basement record store.
Yeah. We just came upon it. I don't know if I ever wrote that down.
Did we buy any records at any of these stores?
I think we each got a record. I can't remember what I got. But then on the way out, you saw the Concrete Blonde.
Oh, yeah.
7-inch, I think.
True. I bought the true 7-inch at a basement record store in Toronto. And I don't have any idea what that store was called now.
Borden in college? Is that where it was? Or is that Hogtown? I can't remember.
I can't either. This is what happens when you don't record for a year.
And we went to Books, Magazines, Videos?
Okay.
BMV?
Oh, yeah. That is a huge, awesome store.
Yeah.
Right by Lee's Palace. And I love going there because I actually got some first edition Haruki Murakami novels there, which were like unbelievable finds for me. I bought them when I went to a show at Lee's Palace in like 2018, but that store has got a really cool, like kind of like niche high market used book locked cabinets where they just like buy first edition hardbacks.
On the first floor? Like
Yeah.
Yeah.
That place has really got some gems, so I'm really glad that we went in there. I don't really remember being in there with you, but I would definitely go in there if it was open. So yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, when I went to Toronto, I think it was for my partner's birthday in January. Everything was like, oh, me and Greg went there. Oh, I think me and Greg went in
Nice.
there. That's we were gonna go into like it was like Poop Coffee or something like that. And we decided also not to go in there.
Amazing.
So yeah.
Amazing. Okay, did we do anything else in Toronto?
I don't think so.
Okay, we did a lot.
Yeah, that was quite a long day. I found a trophy, a tiny little trophy in on the curb somewhere.
Okay.
And wrote number 1 smile and left it, so I hope somebody got it.
Sweet.
Yeah.
If that was you, let us know. Okay, so we get up on Friday, May 27th, and we is that the day that we went to Tim's house?
Yes.
Okay, so we get up on May 27th, leave the Airbnb, then what happens?
We go to Scarborough,
Ontario.
to go see Tim.
Yep, Tim McMiller from Protest the Hero.
Yeah, and we got there quite early, so we walked around, and it was very cold.
Yeah.
So
froze our dicks off.
We froze our dicks off, and they're still out there in Scarborough somewhere.
Yeah, dickless in Scarborough. I think was kind of the theme of that walk that day, right?
There was an improvised song at some point.
Yeah. That definitely sounds like me. Okay, so we go to Scarborough, go walk on the lakefront, find the beach a little bit, freezing, completely insanely cold. Go to Tim's house, super nice. It was great to see Tim. He has a nice guitar hanging on his wall.
Yeah, he made me a coffee.
Oh, he made us coffee.
Yeah.
Love it. Okay, so hung out with Tim for a while, but then something incredible happens. I wouldn't call it incredible. So, as you mentioned earlier, though, Jeff, you have an iPod Touch.
Which has since been retired.
Oh, it has?
But I use a flip phone because I don't want to be attached to the internet constantly.
Yeah.
But I would have an iPod Touch to use on Wi-Fi for like work or Instagram or just to take better photos. And that and my disposable camera that I carry fell out of my vest pocket and into Tim's couch.
Yeah. Wait, so what are you still using the flip phone?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so you are not a smartphone user, which is amazing. I'm jealous.
This is an iPhone SE that Chloe had got me for my birthday because my other one was just taking a shit, my iPod.
Yeah.
But she got this specifically because it's like the dumbest downed version.
Okay.
So
nice.
Yeah, I'm still on that tip, but
so you've upgraded a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I mean, you held strong, man. Full on into 2022, you were smartphone free entirely.
Yeah.
Except for this iPod Touch, which went inside Tim's couch. I remember the moment we were driving on the interstate, maybe the Trans-Canada Highway, who the hell knows?
Yeah.
And we're in traffic, Toronto traffic, going towards London, and you start tapping your vest.
Yeah, my
pockets.
vest has 6 pockets, so then my pants have 4 more pockets.
Yeah.
And I'm looking for my device and my disposable camera.
Yeah.
And then it's just kind of like the shoulder slump of, okay, it's definitely not in here. Like looking next to the chair, looking in the back seat. So yeah, you got a hold of Tim, and he found him right in his couch.
Oh my
It
God.
was a deep couch, and I am a short person.
Yeah, I messaged him on WhatsApp, and I was like, hey, can you go treasure hunting inside your sofa? And he messaged back 2 minutes later, yep, got him. And so we recovered the items when Protest the Hero went to London, Ontario on tour several weeks later. But you were iPod Touch and camera free for several weeks after that experience.
I ended up going to Maine with my partner after that, and I would flip through every once in a while and go, why don't I have any photos?
Yeah.
Why didn't I take any? Oh, I didn't have anything to take them on.
Did you develop that camera?
I did. There was a bunch of photos that you guys took that you couldn't make anything out because all the light was behind you guys.
Oh, amazing. Wonderful. That totally makes sense. Okay, so we get to London, and what happened? Did we...
We met up with Steven at Copper Branch.
Okay, so we met Steven again.
Yeah.
Steven Yarushi. We had lunch. What else you got there?
We thought it was going to be a different Steve.
Oh, we thought we were meeting Steve Foster, who is now the co-host of this podcast.
Oh.
Which is completely bonkers to have that memory now. Like, I 100% thought that we were meeting Steve Foster at Copper Branch, but we met Steven Yarushi, who we had just met like 2 days before
Right.
at the Lee's Palace show in Toronto.
Which, listening to the podcast on the way here, Steve mentioned that he was at the California Takeover show.
Mhm.
So
Yep.
did I meet him when I was standing with you?
Yes.
What the fuck?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, you did. You met Steve. Okay. But only briefly, because I think that he and Zoe went and stood over on the right, and like I was like behind the sound booth for
Yeah.
California Takeover.
Uh-huh.
But I think that you were down on the far. Steve and Zoe went down to the far right so that they could be closer to the stage a little bit, but still be in those mezzanine levels,
Yeah.
town ballroom, which was fabulous. Okay, so we get to London, and we got an Airbnb in a basement, right?
We did.
We were like underneath a business that had like super creaky old wooden floors.
Yeah. It's
And
a
the
very
ceiling was
strange
really
place.
low.
It was low for me.
Yeah, it was not great. And so the accommodations were not wonderful. I'm not going to put the Airbnb person on blast because I totally am an Airbnb person. We're literally sitting in the Airbnb room of my house right now. So I'm not going to blast that person, but they had a basement suite, which is very underwhelming, but it did the job. Did we get rained on?
We got poured on.
Poured.
Dumped on.
Okay, so who was anybody with us?
Steven.
It was Steven.
Mhm.
Okay. I wasn't sure if that was Bob yet or not
No, because I think we met them at that show.
at the show.
Yeah.
Yeah, they got a hotel in like downtown London. We were a few blocks off of downtown
Oh, that's right. We met up with them
on the street corner.
and then we ended up splitting.
Yeah. Oh my God. I'm having like a wild memory right here. Okay. So we meet up with Steven, go to Copper Branch. We go for a little walk, and we get completely soaked. We're standing under a tree a couple blocks from a coffee shop, seeing if it would pass. But then the water starts coming down through the leaves, and we're getting just as wet anyway. So we bolted, make a run for it. And then I think we all got like chai lattes or something like that in that coffee shop on the corner, but we were completely soaked through. So after that, we go closer to the venue, and I think that Todd from Propaganda messaged me, and they were having dinner. He and Robin and Barney
Right.
were having dinner. Did you go with me to meet them?
Yeah, that's when we split up from our Buffalo crew
Uh-huh.
and Me, you, and Steven went over there.
Okay.
We each gave him a pin.
Yes, I remember that. And it was so awkward.
Yeah.
Because they were literally sitting at a dinner table eating a meal, and Robin and Barney were like, what is happening right now? And Todd's like, oh, hey, guys, how's it going?
Yeah, Todd was really... I mean, they were all cool, but Todd was, like, very appreciative.
Yeah.
And I think we felt kind of weird because of the band's COVID kind of protocol that was going on. So, like, you know, you don't want to overstep.
Right, yeah, because Chris was very much in a bubble during that tour for obvious reasons. Like, they had all just been sick before that,
Right.
And so things were a little dicey, and Chris was avoiding everyone. He was like totally elusive ninja man on that tour. But so we go in, we give him the buttons and stickers, and that was fun because it was super freaking awkward. I couldn't get out of there fast enough from what I recall. And did we go out to dinner before the show in London, or did we just have Copper Branch?
I think we just had, let's see, just Copper Branch, it looks like.
Okay.
And coffee.
And that's the show where Maldita opened. No, Mall Crimes played
opened.
first.
Yeah.
Mall Crimes played first. Did you like that venue? London Music Hall?
It was okay.
Yeah.
It seems more like a, what's the place that we sell Bad Religion at?
Oh, Riverworks?
Yeah, it seems more like that, where it's used for maybe a lot of different things, and there's
Yeah.
like more corporate sponsors.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you remember that crazy, wasn't there like a crazy balcony too that was like way up in the high part of London Music Hall? Do you remember that? Did we go upstairs?
I don't think so.
Okay. I know there's like a balcony section up there, but I wonder if it was closed off. But Mall Crimes, wow.
Yeah, blew me away.
What do you remember about them?
I wrote down Scarin' Karen
Okay.
and Defund the Police. I don't remember if that was the same song or not.
Okay.
They were silly.
Yeah,
They
they've
were
got.
good. They got a good message.
I liked the they. I'm looking at their Bandcamp right now. Bootlicker's Delight. Arguing with strangers. I'm arguing with strangers on the internet.
Yeah.
Remember that song? I absolutely loved it. And I'm winning. I'm winning. So good. So good. Another one that they had was Don't Be a Cop. I think that's like their big song where they just say, don't be a cop, don't be a cop, don't be a cop, don't be a cop, like over and over and over. And it's just really good. But they have really good riffs. Like they felt like they had really good, like almost like grungy Seattle early 90s riffs and like really plodding, pounding drums. And so I really liked that about Mall Crimes, and they're still at it. And as far as I can tell, they're doing pretty well.
I would love to go see them again.
Yeah, me too. Okay, and Maldita was the second band who played. I haven't listened to any of their recorded stuff, but I remember that they have a lot of songs that are sung in Spanish, as far as I remember.
Not all of them.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. So Maldita was cool. I don't have a ton of specific memories about them, though. In the London show, we met up with Bob Van Valen, who was the guest on the Tartuffe episode of this podcast. And then my friends Stu and Jamie Lynn, who drove Bob to London. And then also my friends from Buffalo, Dania and Ryan, who drove over for the show. And then also that's the first time I met Sean Scallon, who is a legendary Canadian music promoter who I talked to a bunch and was super nice. But he's booked Propaganda many times over the years, and as far as I know, was the booker of this exact tour. So it was nice to meet Sean.
Yeah.
Does anybody else? Is anybody that I'm missing that you can remember from London? That's where we met was Paul and Mandy in London?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think that Paul and Mandy came up from Ohio for that one as well.
I think that's when we met them.
Oh, right, because Paul and Mandy went skating the next morning. They were like going to skate parks and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're on like a little tour.
Yeah. Nice. Okay. And Mandy was just here. She came up to Buffalo for Gaslight Anthem a couple weeks ago, so I just saw Mandy very recently as well.
Nice.
Okay, so the set list of the London show, I've got Failed Imagineer, Natural Disasters, Nation States, Motor League, Note to Self, Mate Ka, Without Love, In Flagrante Delicto, which was only played for the first time in the Winnipeg shows the previous fall. So Flagrante is sort of a newer addition to the set list. Lotus Gate, Copter Set of Frame, Comply Resist, Negretto, Adventures in Zoocosis, Rattan Cane, Victory Lap, Night Letters, and closing with Anti-Manifesto. So another great set list. Do you have any notes on the London show itself?
All I have is Negretto with exclamation point. So that obviously stuck in my brain.
Yeah, the quiet part where Todd sings Negretto, where it's basically just like him a cappella, is always just so wonderful to see live, you know?
He makes the bass look so tiny.
He's a big dude.
Yeah.
He's like basically as big as me, I think.
He is the one I identify with the most because he's just like stomping his foot like he's going to go through the stage.
Yeah.
And like the fist pumps and stuff. So
yeah.
Most of the time I'm just watching him.
Oh, do you remember the metal sweeper?
Was that the guy we met?
Yeah, the guy with the Robin, they're one of their sound technicians.
Was it that show?
Yes, he did it at 2 shows though. He did it at Guelph and London.
Okay.
So London was the first one that he did, and he did it on Note to Self, which is the 5th song they played. And Todd like whispered something in the microphone, like, "If you whisper, the metal sweeper will come. Metal sweeper, where are you?" And it was just this really funny. And then all of a sudden at the very end, when they go into the rise, and then all of a sudden Robin is flipping his like 8-foot long dreadlocks like between the barrier and the stage, and it was just like I was looking over at it, just like, oh my god. And I think I may have actually filmed that exact one as well, and that might be on the YouTube as well from the show.
Did Todd put a dreadlock in his mouth?
I think he chewed a dreadlock. Yeah, he may have he did that at one of the shows for sure. And I mean, that's a really interesting decision on Todd's part, to say the
get
least.
Some extra nutrients.
Okay, so did we sleep in London that night?
Yeah, that's how we knew that place was creaky, because we woke up at like 6 or 7 to somebody walking around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so then is that when we picked up Bob? Bob rode to Guelph with us?
Yeah, on the 28th.
Okay, so we drive to Guelph, Ontario. That was not my first time in Guelph. I had been to Guelph before because I used to have a dog named Taryn who got cancer, and we took her to the animal oncology veterinary hospital that specializes in treating animals for cancer in Guelph just before the pandemic. So I had been to Guelph before for, at the animal hospital. There's an amazing animal hospital in that town. So we drive up, and what do you remember about about going to Guelph?
I don't remember a ton. There wasn't a ton for us to do waiting to go to the show besides just eat food.
Didn't we go into like a really gorgeous like park and like walk on some trails or something? Was that in Guelph?
Yes, we did, where Bob named every type of bike that drove by us.
Oh, nice.
We went up to that church where I was trying to get us in wedding photos.
Oh, yeah, nice. Okay.
It's like the top of the hill. That was really nice.
Awesome. My cats are going crazy on the other side of this door. It's so funny. So we met Bob. Bob was with us, talking about bikes. Do you remember anything about like food or where we ate in Guelph or anything like that?
We ate at like some outdoor.
The outdoor patio thing.
Yeah. Okay,
so this is where we bring in some other people, some other characters in this story. We've got so Bob's with us, and then that's where we met Matt Milkowski from Chicago.
Right, with his friend
Diego.
Yeah.
They drove all the way from Chicago to Guelph, which is so far. It's so far. I mean, for like 70 minutes of music, like you cannot even, like that is so far. And because, but Matt's been a huge ally of this podcast as well. He did the most amazing cover for Who Will Help Me Bake This Bread and Mutual Friend, and he also wrote the lyrics for the contest song episode.
Oh, okay.
And was a guest on the contest song episode with Willem from Intellectual. So it was awesome to hang with Matt. Also, Brad Thompson, who is a lawyer in Chicago, he also drove up with his friend all the way from Chicago for that show. And it was just really cool to be in Guelph of all places, like such a random place, and meet people and have like people to hang out with. It was really fun.
We had like, I don't know, 10 people.
It was a
at one
crew.
table. Yeah,
Yeah. And Conrad showed up in Guelph also.
he did.
So Steven was there again, right? Steven was there, and then Paul and Mandy, Diego, Matt, and it was just and then Brad. We didn't have dinner with Brad though. Bob. So we had a really good time.
Yeah, and then you got to go see Sulin for a minute.
Saw Sulin for a few minutes, so that was really nice. Just very briefly, I ran out of the restaurant, I think, just to go say hey. I pulled a full fanboy where I ditched the entire dinner party to go talk to Sulin for like less than 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And then I saw, when we went into the venue, I saw Chris wearing a mask, like darting down the stairs away from the open doors for the show. So I did see Chris briefly off stage, but he was not around. So I can't find a set list for Guelph for some reason online. I do know that the highlight of that show for me was apparently I'm a PC fascist.
Oh yeah, I screamed so loud that I think I scared Steven.
Yeah, they like hadn't played that at any of the other shows, and Sulin told me before the show and was like, yeah, there's going to be a surprise tonight, and I'm learning the song like right now. And I was like, oh God. So that was a really, really nice surprise to see apparently I'm a PC fascist get busted out for the last show of the tour.
It was fantastic.
It was awesome.
I love that venue.
Me too. Yeah.
It's like the old Showplace Theater that's recently been reopened here.
Really?
Just
it reopened?
Yeah.
Oh.
It looked like maybe it's a little different, but I haven't been in yet. But it just kind of like maybe stuck in the 70s or 80s. A lot of like wood paneling, kind of dingy.
Yeah, very dingy.
Love it.
Very dingy. There were like booths on the side and stuff like that. It was very dingy. It felt like it hadn't been like touched or renovated in any way since like 1987.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah.
I think that might have been my favorite venue.
Awesome. And it was so we did not stay in Guelph. We drove back after the show. Any other song or set memories stand out? I know Robin did Metal Sweeper again. I wish I could find the set list. I don't know why it's not online.
It's hard to remember. Just being like listening to Conrad Sichler try to
he was trying to provoke them, right?
Yeah.
He was trying to like rib them a little bit like they would do to like bands back in the day.
Yeah, like play that political song or play that Weaker Than song.
Yeah. Yeah, Conrad was roasting them a little bit from the floor.
We had quite an existential conversation for about 20 minutes before they even started playing.
You and him?
Yeah.
Ooh, cool.
Yeah, so that was fun.
Love that.
Yeah.
Very cool. And then after the show, we just bailed. We got Bob and we got the heck out of there and we drove all the way back to Buffalo.
Mm-hmm.
It was middle of the night rampage down the QEW.
Yeah, that was the last time I saw you.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is nuts.
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
And then we both woke up sick as heck the next day.
Yeah, pretty much. We were still going to do this kind of sick.
Yeah.
And then we just did not feel well.
I couldn't do it, man. My biggest symptoms with COVID are coughing and emotional despair. Like almost like to the point of like being like almost like quasi suicidal. Like I get like so sad. Like I just can't deal with it.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's pretty heavy.
It sucks. So but yeah, that was the aftermath of that. I just could not function to do this conversation. Do you have anything else written down in that little notebook there? I just want to make sure that everything we can possibly say gets committed to the record.
Just a lot of things about where we eat.
Yeah.
It seems like there was one point where I didn't know what he was saying in Comply Resist, where there's the little break,
Mm-hmm.
and we actually found the CD booklet in your car.
Yep.
This boundless epoch we've bestowed.
Yeah.
And then we didn't know what an epoch was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, that's not surprising at all. I only play a smart person on the internet.
Because they had played that, and it was like
this boundless epoch we bestowed.
not being able to sing along with that part again, because I'm not a lyrics person. It's like I feel left out.
Yeah. And you just like you like mouth it like silently like
Yeah, it's like, did anybody notice that a gibberish was coming out of my mouth?
So funny. That was it was quite an adventure. I mean, it was the Bangers Embrace.
Yeah,
Our version.
it was fantastic, and just being able to see differences in sets.
Yeah.
And like actually paying attention to that sort of thing, which is not something I normally do. It was pretty great.
Mm-hmm.
And being able to cue in on different like guitar parts.
For sure. Okay, so that was a year ago,
Mm-hmm.
and Propaganda did a couple more shows in like the West Coast and stuff like that this past fall, and are showing no signs of any movement on the live front for the foreseeable future, as far as I can tell. But live music goes on, and I'm curious what other experiences you've had seeing bands in the last year that stand out to you.
I know there's some, but I feel like I traveled extensively last year. So recently, maybe it was in March, my partner and I went to go see Cocky King.
Mm-hmm.
She's a singer, songwriter, beautiful guitar player in like the basement of Babeville.
Oh, cool. Yeah, Ninth
Sit
Ward.
down. It was great.
Yeah.
I haven't seen her since Fred Fest 2005.
Wow.
Yeah. So that was pretty great. It was like she played a lot of older stuff. Man, who else? What happened after that? Wait, I have a notebook right in front of me.
Yeah,
Let's
go
see.
look at your notes here, because I know that you and I both recently were in Atlantic City.
Oh yeah, duh. Yeah, I saw Gorilla Biscuits for the first time in Atlantic City with my buddy Rich.
How was that?
It was fantastic. Saw them in Painted Black. I haven't seen Painted Black
Oh
in
my God.
20 years.
Wow.
So that was phenomenal. It was like watching people you've known your whole life play, and I've never seen Gorilla Biscuits. So that type of a vibe was pretty great.
Amazing. How was Painted Black, too?
So tight.
Incredible.
It was ridiculous. And it was funny that I was staying in Philadelphia and forgot that they were from there.
Yeah.
So they were right over the water or bridge or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, Atlantic City is an hour away.
Yeah, it wasn't bad. I'm getting my timeline so confused. I can't remember if Bareness was last year or the year before.
Did you go to the
maybe?
Mohawk Place one?
Yes.
With that, it was like $60, but it was like in Mohawk Place, so it was like 100 people.
It was amazing. And I was quite close. There was a lot of drunk people.
Yeah.
But I wasn't sure if I was going to go. And then a friend of mine said $60 is reasonable to get ass blasted by Baroness in a small venue.
Dude,
so,
it's so small. And Stu and Jamie Lynn that I mentioned earlier, they went to Baroness too, and they said that was one of the best shows they've ever seen. And I'm just like, wow. Because I don't love going to Mohawk Place.
it's a hit or miss.
Whenever it's sold out, like I saw the Slackers there recently, and it was so overpacked that I just like couldn't even deal with it, and it was just not fun for me.
Right.
But $60 for Baroness in a tiny, tiny, tiny venue, I was like blown away by the price. But then now, when you think about how many more people they could have packed into a place and charged half as much,